Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tanasia, and I am the host of The Carpenter's Touch. Here on YouTube, we are doing a Bible study series on the book of Ecclesiastes through the lens of grief. Today, we're going to be looking into Ecclesiastes Chapter 9. Let's just jump right into today's video, and once again, like in every other video of mine, there's always going to be something going on. Today's video, there's like the noise in the background, okay? There's a lot going on around. Let's start with Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 1. But all this I laid to heart, examining it all, how the righteous and the wise and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. Now, let's unpack this verse together. But all this I laid. And I thought about the word rest, like laying it down, resting it down. Examining it all. Examining, I thought about the word study. Study, like investigate, like understand more, understand the deeper meaning of things. Both are before him. That reminded me of God and how he sees it all. Basically, the preacher, the one who's talking, right? He's saying that, he searched and he studied and he understood that, what? Love or hate, just everything. Like it says here, and their deeds are in the hand of God. Whether it is love or hate, man does not know. Both are before him. I think it reminds me of like how David was handpicked by God, and Samuel had said that man looks at appearance, but God looks at the heart. So this verse, I think, would mean that, hey, yes, every intention is truly understood by God and God alone. Verse 2, it is the same for all, since the same event happens to the righteous and the wicked, to the good and the evil, to the clean and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As the good one is, so is the sinner. And he who swears is as he who shuns an oath. Now, my understanding at the time of this Bible verse is that we need to understand that works will not bring us into a right standing with God. We are made righteous before God solely because of Jesus' blood, solely because of what Jesus did on the cross. Jesus' blood is enough. What he did on the cross is enough. Our works they should be in alliance with our salvation. We should be working out our salvation, not working out gaining a salvation. That is not how it is. And this verse understands that it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your status is. What matters is the blood of Jesus. Are you saved or not? We have to move in faith, not trusting in our own efforts. Verse 3. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that the same event happens to all. Also, the hearts of the children of man are full of evil, and madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. The previous verses have been leading up to this particular verse to say that truly, no matter who you are, no matter what your backstory is, at the end of the day, we are all going to die. At the end of the day, we are all equal in the sight of God. Nobody is righteous than thou, We all have experience with sin. We all struggle with our relationship with God at one point in our life, and it's normal and it's natural. Nobody is perfect. Only Jesus is perfect. So to unpack this verse further, when I read the word same event, I think about Judgment Day. Meeting death, meeting God, Judgment Day. The same event happens to all, so we are all going to be there at Judgment Day. Nobody is exempted from that. Now, full of evil, I underline that part, evil, because we don't want to admit that we have evil on our hearts, but the unfortunate thing is that we do. We do. And it's like, okay, I used to struggle understanding what exactly does it mean to be righteous. When you are righteous, does it mean that you are in right standing with God and you no longer struggle with sin? Because I think it was Noah who was righteous in all the land, so he was like exempted from the flood, him and his family. I think. I think. And I thought that it meant like Noah didn't sin at all. But my understanding, what God brought me to understand, is that it's not that you are righteous and you are lacking in no sin, but rather it's that you are righteous because you are walking with God, because you are choosing God despite of your sin. You have a repentful heart. Repenting doesn't mean that you're just apologizing to God for your sin. Repenting means that you are apologizing and you are changing your ways. And also in this verse, I compared madness is in their hearts while they live to sin. I compared madness to sin, that it is in our hearts as long as we live. As David said in Psalm, I think 51. In Psalm 51, David unpacks that he was made in sin. And I think that goes to show that even before we were born, like even when we are conceived, it's in sin. Verse 4. But he who is joined with all the living has hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. There's a lot of personification going on here, but let's start with living hope. Well, living has hope. Hope brings about positivity. It brings about hope in change. And a living dog and a dead lion, if we compare these two, what is often seen as greater is a lion. But when the lion is dead, it is lifeless without hope. So what meaning, what significance does it hold in comparison to a dog that is alive, that is living? So it doesn't matter where you are at in terms of feeling like you are significant in your life. What matters is the hope that you are holding on to. Who is your source? Verse 5. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. That's pretty sad to think that the memory of the dead is forgotten. But what I understand is that for the living know that they will die. Know. That one word, I think about awareness, an urgency to live in purpose. Urgency to understand that because we are all going to die, how are we living our lives? And are we living our lives with an eternal mindset of what happens after we die or not? I also want to clarify that I'm reading from the ESV version. But when I'm reading this last part of the verse, the dead know nothing and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. I think it underlines two things. One, finality of death. Once you're dead, that's it. You are done. There's no second chances. The bed you make when you are alive is the one that you will rest in when you die. Verse 6. Their love and their hate and their envy have already perished, and forever they have no more share in all that is done under the sun. I want to unpack two things about this verse. The first part of the verse, their love and their hate and their envy have already perished. The feelings listed here are three: love, hate, and envy. Two of them are negative. That's more than one. And I think that goes to show that in life, we often would feel more negative emotions than the positive ones, or we struggle to feel like the good outweighs the bad. But here's the thing also, God is telling us in this verse that, hey, you need to understand that feelings are temporary and the negative ones are not worth holding on to, because this ties into the last part of the verse. No more share in all that is done under the sun. Once you die, that's it. There is no second chances. So don't give the devil a foothold in your life. Verse 7. Go, eat your bread with joy, and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already approved what you do. Now, God loves a grateful heart. Verse 8. Let your garments be always white. Let not oil be lacking on your head. This verse just reminds me to take care of yourself, to practice self-care. You need to understand that God, I think about that Bible verse that talks about fasting. It says that when you fast, you need to wash your face, you need to put oil on your hair, you need to take care of yourself. Don't bring yourself down because you're fasting to also get like attention, to be like, oh my gosh, I'm fasting, it's hard, but I'm persevering. Yes, persevere. Yes, open up about struggle if you are fasting, but don't do it for attention. You need to take care of yourself. A child of God takes care of their self. Don't disregard yourself thinking you're being humble. That is not what humility is about. Moving without pride means putting God above it all, not belittling yourself. Verse 9. Enjoy life with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life that he has given you under the sun, because that is your portion in life, and in your toil at which you toil under the sun. So here's what I understood about this Bible verse is that there are going to be many responsibilities in life. But through it all, appreciate your community. Appreciate the relationships that God has blessed you with, each and every one. I understand that here it says wife, but I want to clarify that this is not just limited to your wife, to your partner, but enjoy life with those that you love. Enjoy life with the community that God has blessed you with. And what I am growing to understand about God is that he blesses you with the community. Sometimes this community may not be what you envision for yourself, but trust in the community that God has blessed you with. And trust God enough that when he called you into a community, he called you to bring light into that community. And not always just bringing light into that community, but sometimes you also called your community for you to receive. You're not always called to give, but also to receive. Verse 10. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going. So, 3 things. 1. Finds. This particular word reminds me that we should always be searching. God doesn't want us to be lazy. This Bible verse also reminds me of Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. But to understand the ending of it, Sheol, to which you are going. Sheol is the grave. It is where the dead lay. And if I'm not mistaken. And where you are going, when we go there, there is no more action. So enjoy also the responsibilities that you have. Enjoy also working. Because when they say you are going to rest, you are going to rest. There is nothing more for you to do. There is no more action. There is nothing more for you to do when you are dead. So be purposeful in all that you do when you are alive. And appreciate all that others do too. Show kindness in life. Verse 11. Again I saw that under the sun the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. Now, this verse just declares it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you do, but time and chance happen to them all. It's not just time and chance. It's not just coincidence. No matter who you are or what you do, God is in control and God has the final say. Yes, we have free will, and in that free will, there are consequences for every decision that we make. But ultimately, at the end of the day, God is in control. And I want to clarify that just because God is in control, that doesn't mean that he is controlling you. He is not a controlling God. He has blessed you with free will. Verse 12. For man does not know his time, like fish that are taken in an evil net. and like birds that are caught in a snare. So the children of man are snared at an evil time, when it suddenly falls upon them. This Bible verse reminds me of Revelation 3:3. And also, it taught me that we don't truly know when we're going to die. It taught me that it will come, it taught me that death will come upon us like a thief in the night, reminding me of this Bible verse too. Verse 13, I have also seen this example of wisdom under the sun, and it seemed great to me. Now, this example here, it reminds me of how Jesus tells parables. So it's going to be in the following verses, right? Verse 14, there was a little city with few men in it, and a great king came against it and besieged it, building great sage works against it. Verse 15, but there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. Yet no one remembered that poor man. Verse 16, but I say that wisdom is better than might, though the poor man's wisdom is despised and his words are not heard. Verse 17, the words of the wise heard in quiet are better than the shouting of a ruler among fools. Verse 18, wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Let's unpack this passage together, okay? Verse 15 reads, by his wisdom. Powerful. We need to understand that wisdom is powerful. There is power in wisdom, okay? And we may not have all that we think we need to fight the battle before us, but God works with what we have. Yet no one remembered that poor man. That poor man was undervalued. Verse 16 reads, but I say that wisdom is better. Wisdom will bring lasting change. Let's use an example of an argument. When you're having an argument with somebody and you take a moment to move in wisdom, whether it is speaking or keeping silent, however way God called you to move in wisdom, that decision will often have a lasting and good impact, more than moving in anger or moving in or reacting in emotions. It reads here, wisdom is better than might. And this word might, I feel like ties into other things. It's like a category for other things like status, wealth, power, etc. I have a little note here that I had written. I wrote that wisdom acts out the intention of shouting, getting through to someone. That's in relation to verse 17, because oftentimes when we shout, we want to be heard. We want something done. We want to be getting through to someone, you know? But when you move in wisdom and you move in a quiet manner, that act actually gets through to somebody more than shouting does. So God here is also teaching us how to communicate. The other day, God clocked with telling me that, why do you move in confusion? Why do you not communicate clearly with your husband? When I am here, I am serving the God of clarity, the God of communication. And when I am not doing all of that, then who am I serving? I'm moving in confusion. I am moving in division. Who am I serving when I do that? So in this verse, God is also teaching us how to communicate and how to be patient. Now in verse 18, when it says, sinner destroys much good, we need to never forget that sin negatively impacts, and it impacts a lot. Sin can genuinely bring about consequences that don't only affect you now, but it can affect generations thereafter, especially if the sin is repetitive, not only in your life, but in their life too. That is why God calls us to be generational curse breakers. He is the God that breaks every chain, and He redeems what the devil has stolen from us. So we are called to move in that, steward that, walk in that. You know, it reminds me about how the Israelites were given the promised land, and God allotted to them the land even before they had conquered the land. They were called to move in action. They were called to steward. God's declared blessing over their lives. And so that is what we are called to do as well. Well, that is it for today's Bible study on Ecclesiastes chapter 9. It was a pretty short Bible study, and I think it did unpack a lot, reminding us about how we need to enjoy life, how we need to move in a heart full of gratitude, and how we need to understand that we should always be moving in a purposeful manner because there is life after death, and we should be choosing life after death, but more especially appreciating the life that we have now. And with that, I want to end today by doing what I always do at the end of every video, which is just like unpacking on where I'm at in my grieving journey at this time. Because right now I am trying to grieve again, move through grieving. Okay. Right now I am trying to deal with grief by reading the book of Ecclesiastes, and some days are easier than others, honestly. I don't know how many times I say this in this series, but some days are truly easier than others. So this week I struggled with something that I didn't think I'd be struggling with until, or I knew I would struggle with it, but I didn't feel the effects of it until it came to pass, you know? I don't know if I'm explaining that nicely, but bear with me. So this week, or this past 2 weeks, a life was born. A beautiful life came into this world in our family. Shout out to the baby. I will not give the details about the baby, but shout out to the baby. And with seeing this baby be brought into our home, being brought into our family, seeing my grandfather hold this baby, seeing my aunt hold this baby, seeing my family hold this baby, and hearing about their interactions with the baby, because I haven't met the baby personally yet, but I've seen pictures, I had a video call, but not in person. So seeing all of that really was a bittersweet moment, because yes, it is life. Having a baby is truly life. It's a blessing from God. And yet in that moment my heart broke, because it's like, wow, my grandmother's not here to appreciate this blessing that we have before us, is not here to appreciate this life, this newborn life in our family. And that broke my heart. And yeah, I cried, and it still makes me pretty sad, because it also reminds me that my grandmother will not be there when it is my time to bring in a life into this world. My husband had brought about the imagery for me to say that I'm sure God had allowed my grandmother to see the baby before the baby even came here on earth. And that made me even cry more, because it was like the wholesome moment, it was so sweet. But that made me cry even more. But I think it's things like that that make me acknowledge that grief is something that truly doesn't just pass by. Grief is a journey through highs and lows. Like we read through the earlier chapters of the book of Ecclesiastes, that there is a season for everything, there's a time for everything under the sun, and there's a time to weep, there's a time to rejoice. And I think that seasons are like, they're not just months in between, they can be minutes apart too. Because for me in that moment it was like, oh my gosh, the baby's here, a moment of happiness. But at the same time it's like, oh my gosh, my grandmother's not here to appreciate this, and it's a moment of sadness. And governing those two emotions, it's a lot. It can be hard to do. I think that with grief there's going to be a lot of bittersweet moments. As much as you want to enjoy, it also hurts. But that's the beauty of it, of walking in grief with God, or walking through grief with God, that He is with you in the highs and the lows. Because I can trust, I can have hope that, you know, I don't know. I don't know, really. It truly is bittersweet, because on one end I'm happy. and then on the other end I'm sad. And you know, there's some times when you feel like you can't be happy because she's not here to be happy with you, you know? I used to feel like that, especially like early on in the grieving journey. I used to feel like that because I felt like, how can I be happy? How can I laugh when she's not here to enjoy this moment? And yet it's like, I know she would have wanted this. I know she would have wanted happiness. She would have wanted us to live. And the hard truth about grieving is that just because the other person is no longer here with us doesn't mean that we should stop living. We have the beauty of being alive, and in being alive we should live. Like God's word said today in today's like Bible study, is that we need to take care of ourselves. We need to live. We need to rejoice. We need to be merry. We are still alive. We are still living. We should be moving in purpose with God. And it sucks that somebody else is not there to live with us. And that doesn't mean that their memory needs to die too. We can live remembering them. And here's the beauty of it. Like I mentioned in the very first video of this whole series, the story time, is that God is love, and he is also a God that is eternal. Now, that means that love is eternal. The love I have for my grandmother will live on, and death will not be the end for my love for her. And death is not the end in general, because Jesus conquered death, and in him do we have an opportunity for life. Jesus conquered death, and Jesus defeated death. And because of his works on the cross, because he resurrected 3 days later, we can rejoice in that in him we also have an opportunity for eternal life. And knowing that death is not the end means that I will one day see my grandmother. So that is it for today's video, guys. Thank you for watching, and I hope you liked it. Like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think, what you feel about this video, and how God is meeting you in your grieving journey, or how this video has impacted you. Please share it if you think somebody needs to hear about this video today. And I hope and I pray that God is with you in your journey through whatever season you are going through. Bye everyone.